Thanks for watching today's video. Today's video is brought to you by Keeps. Losing hair can be a big problem for folks, especially when it's a part of your signature look. 2 out of 3 guys will actually experience some form of pattern baldness by the time they're 35. Yet the best way to prevent hair loss is to be proactive while there's still hair there. Keeps is a great way to treat this problem, and it's incredibly easy. Keeps allows you to skip the hassle of an in-person doctor's visit, so you can talk with a doctor online and get hair loss medication delivered directly to your home. It's hassle-free, and you get new medications delivered to you every 3 months. And Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. So you're getting approved medication at an affordable rate. So if you're ready to take action today and save your hair, go to keeps.com/completionist or click the link in the box down below to receive 50% off your first order. Again, that's keeps.com/completionist. Thanks for watching and enjoy the show. No one gets everything right on their very first try, and similarly, not every game gets the reception that it deserves when it first comes out. Some games get exiled to the void of time, doomed to be overlooked, even when they were really good. And when it comes to Mega Man Legends, I'm as guilty of that as anyone else. I didn't give this game its due respect back in the day, and I can see that now, because time can be an endless void that sucks up and eats memories of games, but it can also give us the space to clarify our thoughts and admit that a game we originally wrote off kind of actually really rules. Hey everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Completionist New Game Plus, the show where I am recompleting the first 120 games I ever featured here on the channel. More on that in the box down below. Guys, I'm sorry. That's about as much of an apology video that I'm gonna get when it comes to this channel, because of the atrocity that I committed all the way back when I made this show. Now, to be clear, Mega Man Legends is one of my favorite games of the PlayStation era. I really can't believe that there haven't been more games outside of Mega Man Legends 2 and the Misadventures of Tron Bonne. But looking at my original episode, it was hard to watch because I gave this game a rating of Play It. Now, Play It is not bad. I don't like ratings, you guys know that, but Play It's okay. This game deserves way more than a Play It. So this was the first Play It I ever gave in the history of the show, and now this is probably one of those few episodes where I'm going to drastically change how I felt, because spoiler alert, Mega Man Legends is awesome. Let's begin.
And the battle continues. This could turn it all around. This bout will determine who is the strongest once and for all.
When looking at any single image from Mega Man Legends, 2 things are immediately apparent. That the Mega Man game, and that it looks nothing like any other Mega Man game. And for some people, that's its whole legacy. It's the one that's in 3 dimensions and was supposedly pretty good, and that's it. But when this thing originally came out on the PlayStation, it was pretty hype. Or at least it was for me. Now there's also a version for the N64 called Mega Man 64, but I played it on the PlayStation back then, and again this time around, because I wanted to relive the game as I remembered it. Even though there was a sequel and a spin-off that are both now super hard to find and are very expensive, and of course there's the cancelled 3rd installment of Mega Man Legends, this game is still sometimes looked at as nothing more than a weird anomaly in the Mega Man series. Obviously the gameplay is radically different, but there's also a much more involved story, full anime voice acting, and RPG-like elements. It's an oddity within the series for sure, but it's more than just that. It's also a super dope game in its own right, and I played my part in overlooking it with the original episode, because returning to it, I was reminded that it rules for all the reasons I just listed. The idea of a 3D Mega Man RPG is an incredibly solid idea on its own, and it's wild how the run and gun gameplay is recognizably Mega Man, while also being very much its own thing. Gameplay involves exploring and fighting enemies and bosses with Mega Man's classic Buster weapon, which can be upgraded to increase its strength, speed, range, and energy patterns. And then there's the whole additional third dimension thing, which feels slightly archaic now, but it's still a great expansion of what a Mega Man game can feel like. With the focus on strafing, jumping, and blasting with the range of weapons, it's definitely Mega Man, just different. Straight down to Mega Man himself, who is straight up a different guy. We all know classic Mega Man and his slightly grittier counterpart Mega Man X, but this guy was known as Mega Man Walnut, and he has more going on than the whole standard, oh no, Dr. Wily has built some evil robots and Mega Man now has to fight them plot. Walnut lives on a flooded Earth in which people dig through ruins looking for a fabled power source. He lives on a ship called the Flutter, with his spotter Roll Casket, her grandfather Barrel, and a monkey named Data. When they crash on Catalog's island, they come into conflict with a family of pirates known as the Bonds, which eventually leads Mega Man Walnut to uncover all kinds of secrets about his own history and the history of the strange flooded world that they live in. It's essentially a unique Mega Man plot focusing heavily on treasure hunting and exploration. All of the settings and characters are super vibrant and fun, and while I get that it deviates from the norms of a Mega Man game, I truly don't get why it isn't celebrated or talked about more. Having now come back to this game after a number of years, all I want to do is talk about how awesome it is. Just walk up to people on the streets and be like, hey, have you heard the awesome news about Mega Man Legends? Spoiler, it rules. And I do get that if you wanted a classic Mega Man experience, the initial impressions that this game puts out could reasonably turn you off. Yet, it's still Mega Man, and the quality of the game doesn't have anything to do with how much it reminds someone of other games in the series. It does such a good job of doing its own thing, and I don't want to be a part of why it slips into obscurity. It's nuts that the sequels are so hard to find, and that the third one will never happen. And also the fact that people don't talk about this game more. I mean, Mega Man Walnut shows up during Mega Man's final smash in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and more people should want to know who that guy is. Go play his game right here. Yes, it's weird, but that doesn't mean it isn't good. In fact, it's usually the opposite. So, I'm sorry that I kind of brushed this game off last time around, but I'm here right now to make up for it and shout from the rooftops that Mega Man Legends is a great game that stands on its own merits. All right, maybe not from a rooftop because that sounds a little scary, but I'm sure I can find something like a balcony or like a stair railing that I can look down upon someone. You know what I mean. Sometimes when something is really different from what people expect, that's all they can see, different. And then they can't push past that to judge it on its own merits, because different as a quality isn't inherently good or bad. People do the same thing when an adaptation of a beloved book or show is released, judging it solely on how much it adheres to the source material. And sometimes it's kind of a bummer, because noting that something is different isn't actually saying anything about how good it is. Instead, you've got to look past that to see what it does within the space that it carves out for itself. I've always loved Mega Man, and I always will, obviously. I've made an insane number of videos about the guy, and sunk so many hours into the many games that he's in. But I also love a dope, colorful RPG shooter set in a fun world. And if that game is both good and also happens to star a version of Mega Man, even better. It was especially rad at the time because, yes, I can admit that this game has aged a fair amount. Yet the central idea of shifting Mega Man into this new genre is really strong and would still work really well to this day. Even in a game for the original PlayStation in which you can feel the technology struggling to keep up with its ideas, it's still immediately apparent that this concept works. Having a Mega Man game with a full-on story and cast of voice-acted characters was amazing back then, and it's honestly still amazing now. But also, the story is just really fun and compelling, so even if it was just about a random dude named Walnut, I'd still be into it. All of the characters were immediately delightful back when I first played the game, and they've all stayed that way. Walnut himself is a totally adequate Mega Man, but it's the other characters like Roll and Tron Bon who I still think really make this entire piece come to life. Tron and her little Lego-esque surf bots were immediately iconic, and even if most people probably recognize them more from Marvel vs. Capcom 2 than from this game, then, well, that's fine. At least she and the Surf Boss are remembered, even if her standalone prequel game isn't. Those are the standouts, but the whole supporting cast is weird and delightful. From Trombon's baby brother Babu, who can only say Babu, to Data, the mysterious monkey that helps Mega Man save his game. And because there is voice acting and so much more emphasis on the world and story for this game, I feel like I know this version of Mega Man's world more intimately than the others, even though I've spent way more time overall with those other games. The game has more dimensions in the most literal sense, but also figuratively, because everything has been expanded out into a bigger, more detailed-oriented type of game. The story and the characters have much more texture, but so does the gameplay, with an RPG-like focus on stats that isn't something you'd automatically associate with Mega Man, but it somehow feels right at home. I mentioned before that the gameplay now feels a little archaic, but I don't mind it, because on top of strafing, shooting, and jumping while fighting both regular enemies and big beefy boss bots, there's a surprising amount of stuff to do in this game. There's exploring to find treasures and completing good and evil tasks that either lighten or darken the color of Mega Man's suit. There are mini games to earn the top rankings in, and they're all super fun. There are side quests to complete, buildings to repair, and gifts to give. But mostly, there are weapons to find and upgrade. And it's this that has easily the biggest impact on the gameplay and makes everything feel worth it. Because the more items and weapons I got, the better the game felt. And this time, I was able to more fully appreciate the ways in which gameplay evolved based on which items I'd equip. It's not as easy to switch between special weapons as it is in the other Mega Man titles, but that almost just goes even further towards adding weight to those choices and making you consider which approaches you think you're going to want to have available to you. And that's a big thing here. Once you fully upgraded every single weapon in the game, you just feel unstoppable and super dope. It's the sort of scaling up that you don't always get in a Mega Man game, but that always feels great when done right towards the end of a journey. Instead of just switching to a specific weapon for a specific boss, I've got to change up my entire playstyle in order to make all of it work. It's an approach that requires more thought, which isn't to say that other Mega Man games are mindless. Far from it, in fact. But by layering an RPG's worth of detail onto a Mega Man game, it feels totally transformed, and I definitely appreciate that a lot more. It's wildly different from my other beloved Mega Man games, but that has nothing to do with whether or not it's good. If the game is good and has the words Mega Man in the game, then it's a good Mega Man game. And while this game definitely has its supporters and was well received when it came out, its differences definitely lend to the way it tends to get lost in the conversation when people talk about Mega Man. Now, I do want to add there is one extremely frustrating thing that is inside of Mega Man Legends: buying and upgrading equipment. It's relatively straightforward and easy, but as you start getting closer and closer to upgrading every single thing in the game, you'll realize there are only so many efficient ways to farm for Zenny, the currency in the game, in order to upgrade everything. And it takes millions and millions of Zenny to upgrade the entire arsenal for Volnut. You will end up farming certain areas over and over and over again, which will get extremely boring. It can take anywhere from 1 to 4 hours to fully farm and max out all of your gear. The end result in all of this is obviously worth it, but because I had to play the game on several difficulties, it got to the point where I was speedrunning this game only to then just farm for hours to max out Mega Man Volnut. And that, my friends, is the one true gripe I have with this game. There could have been more mini games or more efficient ways to get money. Instead, it was just run this end game dungeon over and over again just to farm for Zenny, and your sanity will be tested. But now, I'm glad I get this chance to atone for brushing over this game and for giving it a lower rating than it deserves. I finally have the clarity I need to recognize how good it is, and what a shame it is that it isn't talked about more. I can take it to the rooftops or the closest available approximation and tell the world the truth about Mega Man Legends. Much better now that I've done my part to spread the word about this game. And while I regret giving it a play it before because the story is amazing, it's still worth talking about what it takes to complete this game and if it ends up being worth it in the end. Because, you know, it's my whole deal. It's the job. We've done this at this point almost 500 times, so you know what's up. As I mentioned before, getting and maxing out all the items and special weapons is more than worth doing because it has a profound effect on how the game is played. And the small stuff is all worth doing too. Getting Mega Man to either end of the morality spectrum, finding all the treasure, and being the best at all of the mini games. It all serves as the perfect excuse to hang out in this world and interact with all of the weird and delightful folks that inhabit it. When it comes to doing all that stuff and getting all the items, it's its own reward. The biggest hurdle to completing this game is also where the most direct rewards are. It's 3 distinct difficulty levels. To unlock hard mode, you have to beat normal mode. That makes sense. But in order to get easy mode, you have to beat hard mode or beat normal in less than 3 hours. Makes slightly less sense, but okay. The thing is though, each of those difficulties has its own rewards for beating it, which means I had to do them all, which I'm not 100% sure I even fully realized last time around. Easy mode unlocks the jet skates from the very start of the game, which is actually pretty cool, on top of opening all the chests and earning you a new buster part. All of this would be dope if it wasn't super likely that easy playthrough is the third one a player's going to be doing, and they may not be stoked about jumping into a fourth playthrough just for a new buster part. Beating hard mode unlocks double HP for enemies, as well as double damage dealt to the player. So that's also about trying to get the player to jump in and do another run. But I gotta tell you, even though I finally embraced the fact that I kind of love this game, I was still over it by the time I finished that third playthrough. It's truly a charming and delightful time, but by the time I was barreling through easy and hard modes just to check them off my list, some of that joy had definitely faded. I'm still down to tell everyone about how underrated this game is, but by tying rewards to the game's difficulty levels, it makes completion feel very much like an overbearing chore that won't get done anytime soon. While I recompleted Mega Man Legends, there were 18 deaths, almost all of which were in hard mode. This is probably around the same as last time, although honestly I'm not sure. Maybe more because of the extra playthrough, but I'm also better at games now, so maybe it just balanced itself out. 7 side quests completed, 3 gifts given to roll, and 5 mini games that I earned top ranking in. All this stuff was pretty fun and low stakes, and relatively painless all 3 times around. 13 weapons fully upgraded, as well as 30 buster parts used to amp up my stats. Learning to appreciate these RPG elements and the way that weapon customization affects gameplay was the main thing I think I needed in order to enjoy what this game is doing more this time around. 25 hours of total playtime, which was more than last time because I had a better sense of what completing the game actually meant. And 40 serve bots, because I still love those useful little Lego people, and I'm mad we haven't had a decade of successful Tron Bond games for them to appear in. At the end of the day, I was very, very wrong. Mega Man Legends is an incredible game to complete. However, that's the gray area that comes into full effect, and that's kind of the whole essence of the show, right? Is this game worth completing? At the end of the day, no, do not complete this game. However, at the very absolute least, you should get to the end and experience the story so you can try it your own hand in the other games, whether it's The Misadventures of Tron Bond or Mega Man Legends 2. Me personally, I have never played Mega Man Legends 2, so if you want to see Mega Man Legends 2 on the regular Completionist show, sound off in the comments down below, hit the like button, and let me know, because I really would love to play it for you guys. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my brand new Completionist rating of Finish It.
Finish it!